There's an event coming up in June that a lot of Canada is waiting for. You may be aware of the fact that the Parliament of Canada and the Prime Minister asked the First Nations people to forgive them for the abuses of the past in terms of residential schools and other things that have happened. And the Aboriginal peoples of Canada are accepting that apology, and they have put together something called Forgiven, Catch the Dream. It's a national summit of the First Peoples of Canada to be held in Ottawa, June 11th to the 13th, and you can find out more at www.iforgive.ca. Kenny Blacksmith is the driving force behind this, a former Grand Chief of the Cree Nation, and I had the honor of interviewing him last February sometime, live here on 100 Huntley Street. And he, of course, talked about this event, talked about a tour of the country that's going to be happening, and in the process of the interview, told me about Bill Prankard. Now, I was very interested in that because not too long ago I interviewed Bill and Gwen right here on this show, on this set. And we have the good fortune of having Bill come by the studio just to give us an update on what's happening. Welcome back, Bill.
Thanks. Good to be here again, Jim.
Hey, you're the founding pastor of Dominion Outreach Center in Ottawa, and you also have a terrific ministry to peoples in the far north. We covered that in the interview with you a few months ago. Yeah. And I am fascinated by the work you're doing. But tell me about Kenny Blacksmith and this Forgiven Catch the Dream event.
Well, to me, Jim, this is one of the most important events, honestly, that I've seen in my lifetime in our nation. I really believe that. Kenny and Louise Blacksmith are phenomenal leaders within the church, within the First Nation community. And you know, I fell in love with First Nation people 45 years ago. When I went to Bible school, that was the only place I could preach. Nobody else wanted me to preach. And there was a reserve that I could go out near Coburg and love their heart, love the simplicity of their faith. And I prayed then that God would give me an Indian heart, that I wouldn't question, I wouldn't challenge, I wouldn't dissect. And I have learned so much from them over the years. But in those days, Jim, I didn't understand the pain. I knew people were committing suicide, and I didn't get that. I knew that they were living in poverty. I really didn't get that. I just thought, well, this is the way it is. But when I started to get more involved over the years and hear the stories that people like Kenny have, and people like Matthew Kuncombe and Billy Diamond, who are generals in our nation, what they went through personally in the residential schools, you know, led by the church and the government. What we had done to them, you know, really coming to their land, taking their land, and treating them like we had, making so many treaties and breaking every one of them. And I thought, why would they ever talk to us? Why would they ever, you know, listen to us? Why would they ever accept anything we have to say? The fact that these people have become some of my best friends is a demonstration of the grace of God. On their part. I mean, they're the most gracious people. And governments over the years would not visit this. I mean, it was too hot to even admit the wrongs that were done. And when Mr. Harper stood up and very emotionally apologized, I was interested, not how it impacted me, but how did it impact my friends? And Chief Billy Diamond at the time was in the hospital in Montreal. He had had a stroke, and I went down to Montreal right after the apology and said, what do you think? He'd watched it on television with some of his folks, and he said, it's like when the Prime Minister in his seat of authority did what he did, a black veil that's been around our nation was ripped open. He said it. And Kenny is saying it, Matthew Kuncombe is saying it, others. Now it's up to us. That same day, Jim, Matthew Kuncombe, who had been the Grand Chief of Canada for a number of years, wrote an article in the Citizen that they just printed exactly as he wrote it. And he talked, I think for the first time publicly, about being abused sexually, physically in the residential schools. How he hadn't slept the night before, or 2 nights before the apology, knowing what was coming. and knowing they have to handle it. And they all said the same thing. Now we have to respond.